So before we get into today's video, I want to give a shout out to a must read for any Christian. It's the book Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Lewis is a brilliant ex-atheist intellectual. He became a Christian and actually one of the greatest defenders of the faith. He brings a brilliant yet easy to read and understand depth to the Christian faith. His book is really not specific to any denomination, but rather explores the ideas that generally unite all Christians. It's really a must-read. If you have never read this book, go to Amazon right now and look up Mere Christianity and either get an audio or a paper copy today. The most fundamental conversation we can have, the starting point for all seekers, is a conversation about reality itself. This subject is bigger and more universal than any particular church or worldview. The human condition is the one thing all people share, and accurately framing that fundamental starting point for all people is the subject I wish to address here. Now, I love sailing. I love the adventure of being on the ocean and facing the uncertainty of the conditions. I love surfing for the same reasons. I remember when my older brother and I first contemplated sailing the ocean with our families. We decided to get certified and take actual ocean sailing classes because we both knew and continue to know that the ocean is no joke. In fact, my older brother went so far as to take his family all the way across the world, sailing all of last year from Virginia down the East Coast into the Caribbean, and then crossing the entire Atlantic Ocean, sailing into North Africa, into Spain, and eventually into Italy and the islands of the Mediterranean. My brother is nuts. One thing you learn very quickly when you're out sailing is that mistakes or too much bravado on the ocean can be deadly. During the years that I lived in Hawaii, I personally pulled 3 people on different occasions panicking from the ocean as they were caught in riptides. For all its beauty, the ocean is something that commands immense respect. Having firsthand experience of the power and fury of the ocean, as well as its vast loneliness, I have learned to take it very seriously. The human condition in its raw form is very much like the ocean. It is vast, it can be beautiful, it can be terrifying, it can be lonely, and it changes without warning. It demands to be taken seriously. This is the fundamental nature of reality. When we strip away all of our narratives, man is adrift in a sea, without any definite purpose or direction, in an environment that can be both beautiful and awful. Since the dawn of time, people have constructed boats, usually in the form of narratives, and they use these boats to navigate this metaphorical ocean. These boats were something to grab onto, something to keep you from drowning, especially amid storms. These boats have never been perfect. Some of them have been nothing more than an assemblage of driftwood, but at least they gave you something to keep your head above the water in a storm. Faith is when you grab onto one of these boats, or maybe just a chunk of driftwood, trusting in it. You put your trust in it, your faith, into something because the alternative leaves you adrift and without recourse. It could be as simple as faith in, I should do what I feel is right, or it could be a complex faith tradition. Those who abandon faith are essentially abandoning the boats. Those who abandon faith are those who are basically saying that the water is not so bad and that they enjoy swimming in the calm water. But these people don't understand the ocean. They don't understand its power, beauty, and danger. Swim and enjoy the calm because eventually we all drown is their motto. However, sometimes you will see a swimmer clinging to a little bit of driftwood or to the side of one of the boats when a storm comes. Because even the swimmer deep down doesn't want to be tossed around and drowned. These swimmers come to realize that the only way to prevent drowning is to hold on to something, even if it's just temporarily. But there is a deeper question here. Is there any destination over the horizon? Is there somewhere to go? Or are we ultimately just to drift around until we eventually drown? Is life nothing more than a short swim in an ocean that may be calm and beautiful, or stormy and terrifying with fate at the helm? Those adrift sometimes rightly ask, why am I so lucky to enjoy the calm, beautiful seas? Or why are others so unlucky as to only endure a short, miserable drowning in an unforgiving storm? If you don't recognize fully the perverse injustice of the human condition, then you are either naive or heartless. The fundamental reality is the ocean in all its desolation, injustice, and vast, drifting emptiness. It's where chance alone rules your well-being or suffering. When you consider this plight, you understand why many believe mankind is in need of rescue. But is there any hope? Anything solid to build a life on? As we drift, there are many who claim there is land over the horizon, that we can get there, and that we can build a new life on solid land. There are ships constructed, there are courses plotted, and we see those who sail beyond the horizon not knowing where they will end up. Are we going to get into a ship? Which ship? Which direction? To what end? Should we stop worrying and taking on the stress and physical demands of sailing? Should we jump into the water, swim around, and hope the storms don't come and drown us before we want them to? After all, aren't all these boats just wishful thinking, a doomed endeavor that turns existence into a miserable sailor's toil before dying in pursuit of land that doesn't exist? Jordan Peterson has gained international stardom by rightly pointing out that our civilization, our human progress, and that which humans find of worth has been built on people adopting responsibility.
That's Nietzsche's realization. He said, look, imagine that you live within a belief system, and then something arises to challenge the belief system. Not only does the belief system collapse, but something worse happens. Your belief in belief systems collapses. And that's the road to not. Now, it doesn't have to, because you can jump from one belief system to another. But sometimes that doesn't work, is that you do a meta-critique and you say, oh, I was living in this protective structure and it turned out to be flawed. Okay, one alternative is jump to another protective structure. Fine. Another alternative is protective structures themselves are not to be trusted. Bang, you're in chaos. How the hell are you going to get out of that? That's the pathway to nihilism. This is the weird paradox. And I believe this is the paradox, first of all, that was discovered in part by Buddha, but also laid forth very clearly in Christianity, which is that the solution to the problem of tragedy and malevolence is the willingness to face them. Now, who the hell would ever guess that? It's a completely paradoxical suggestion. Is that, well, why does it work? Well, because the more you confront the two of them, the more you grow. And maybe you can grow so that you're actually larger than the chaos and malevolence itself. And you think, well, what's the evidence for that? And that's easy. That's what people do. That is how we learn. Like every time you expose your child to something new. You know, we've been fed this unending diet of rights and freedoms, and there's something about that that's so pathologically wrong. And people are starving for the antidote, and the antidote is truth and responsibility, right? And it isn't because that's what you should do in some I know better or someone knows better for you what you should do sense. It's that's the secret to a meaningful life, and without a meaningful life, then all you have is suffering and nihilism and despair and all of that and self-contempt. And that's not good, and it's necessary to stand up and take responsibility. And they all know that and are starving for that message.
Essentially, what Peterson is saying is that a meaningful life can only be built by people taking on the task of building a boat and setting sail. Because in sailing, in exploring, in the seeking of land, we find purpose and hope. We find happiness and meaning. Some days we see birds that give us signs of land. Other times we feel alone as we try and patch a hole in our boat. But sail on we must. As we look around, we see many boats proposing all sorts of different destinations. The boats are built differently. The crews are organized in different fashions. Some are big, some are small. Some have comfy chairs, some do not. But all the boats are trying to go somewhere, trying to find solid land. Join our crew is the call, as each boat's virtues and the course that they are plotting is extolled as the surest, smoothest way to the solid land. But there's another group, a group in the water, swimming around, laughing at the people in the boats. Those in the boats can hear them. Come in and enjoy the water. That boat will surely sink in the first storm. You are wasting your time and the time of others toiling on those silly boats. Still, occasionally, some of those in the water feel a tinge of fear as they see clouds approach. They even feel envious of how these boats at least provide structure and a voyage to take on. Some even consider building a boat of their own, but worry about having to keep their boat from being mocked and attacked by the swimmers. The swimmers don't just mock the boats. They take great pleasure in trying to sink them. But why? Those boats are dangerous, and the people in them will suffer a miserable journey, replies the swimmer. Better to sink the ships so we can all drift around together. The swimmer is so naive, so ignorant of the nature of the ocean. He ignores the fact that the greatest suffering is not found in a sailor's toil toward a worthy goal, but a life adrift in the void. Perhaps we should also consider that boats are hard to build. They are hard to sail. It's much easier to point out the leaks in other people's boats. It's much harder to build a seaworthy craft that can endure the onslaught of storms, attacks from other boats, and the constant barrage of swimmers trying to pry loose any planks they can. And what of those who in the boats are sinking all the other ships around them? Are they any better than the swimmers? Why not convince people to jump into your boat? Why cast them into the water where they may drown? Just because you sink their ship does not mean they will join your crew. So who are you? Who are the people around you? Are they ship builders or ship destroyers? It's one thing to be trying to build a boat and calling others to join you in a worthwhile journey in a more secure and seaworthy craft. It's another thing entirely to be a swimmer, someone who offers nothing but a life adrift in the meaningless, cruel void, and who takes perverse pleasure in pulling others into the water. Now, surely some occasional prying loose of rotten planks or remodeling of the ship is necessary and good. But why focus on destroying the boats of others when we are merely adrift in the water, or when our own boat is so badly in need of care and maintenance? I think it's worth considering the words of this classic poem by Charles Benvigar. As I watched them tear a building down, a gang of men in a busy town, with a ho-heave-ho and a lusty yell, they swung a beam, and the sidewall fell. I asked the foreman, "Are these men skilled, and the men you'd hire if you want to build?" He gave a laugh and said, "No, indeed, just common labor is all I need. I can easily wreck in a day or two what builders have taken years to do." And I thought to myself as I went on my way, which of these roles have I tried to play? Am I a builder who works with care, measuring life by rule and square? Am I shaping my work to a well-made plan, patiently doing the best I can? Or am I a wrecker who walks to town content with the labor of tearing down? O Lord, let my life and labors be that which will build for eternity. So is there solid land somewhere? No one knows for sure, but those of faith are those who dare to believe that there is. One of the great truths of life is that happiness is found in meaning, not comfort. And meaning is only found in building a seaworthy craft, plotting a course, and taking on the sailor's toil through storms and sunshine toward a worthy destination you believe is there. One of the sad realities of life is when you come to realize that we are on an ocean. We are all in this together. We may not agree on what the best direction is to sail. We may not be able to sail together. But please, let's spend our time building better and better boats and inviting others to join us in the voyage that we are taking instead of spending our time pulling others into the frigid waters of an unrelenting ocean. So do you enjoy the content here on Thoughtful Faith? If so, be sure to hit the notification bell. This ensures that our new videos show up on your feed. Also, be sure to check out our Facebook group called Thoughtful Saints, where myself and others discuss the sorts of topics found on this channel. And lastly, if you think other people would benefit from this video, please be sure to share it.